Sharon was off duty, enjoying a rare night out with friends at a local bar, the kind of evening where laughter and music drowned out the weight of her everyday life. As the clock edged past midnight, she and her friends stepped out into the cool night air, only to be confronted by 24 masked motorcyclists. The group surrounded them, mocking and attacking with ruthless precision. Sharon's heart raced, her instincts kicking in, but the odds were overwhelming. Within minutes, though, she managed to call in backup 7 elite Navy SEAL operators who had trained with her through countless missions. The SEALs struck with surgical efficiency, dismantling the attack, rescuing the victims, and leaving dozens of assailants in custody. Yet the leader, Jerome, vanished into the shadows, a ghost who had slipped through their grasp. From that night on, Sharon and her SEAL team weren't just protecting themselves, they were hunting for justice. Every move they made was driven by a burning need to stop Jerome and his network, to ensure no one else would fall victim to such brutality. But what drove Jerome to orchestrate such a calculated attack? How did Sharon summon 7 elite operators in mere minutes? And what secrets did the confrontation reveal about the masked bikers' true intentions? The answers lie deeper than the surface, in a story of strategy, betrayal, and relentless pursuit. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now let's uncover how this story really began. Sharon stepped out of Murphy's bar into cold, unmoving air, the kind that pressed against the skin like a warning. She rolled her shoulders once, loosening muscles that never truly relaxed, even off-duty. Her sneakers scraped lightly against the wet asphalt as she started the 3-block walk to her car. No music, no chatter, just the low hum of a city half asleep. Then the sound shifted. A faint vibration under her feet, a mechanical growl building from multiple directions. Her nostrils flared instinct before thought. She pivoted slightly, chin angling, eyes narrowing as 24 motorcycles burst from the shadows like predators exiting a choke point. They surrounded her in a perfect circle, engines rumbling in deliberate intervals. Skull masks, matching jackets, formation spacing too clean for amateurs. She noted the staggered positioning, the overlapping fields of movement. Her pulse didn't spike, but her jaw flexed once barely visible. The leader swung off his bike, boots hitting the pavement with practiced weight distribution. His mask tilted up just enough to show a grin that never reached his eyes. "I'm Jerome," he said, voice coated in false amusement. "Wrong neighborhood, little girl." Sharon didn't flinch. Her thumb slid over her phone in her jacket pocket, 3 taps, smooth and silent. Emergency beacon, code black, encrypted ping to one network only. The only one she trusted. Jerome stepped closer, testing distance. His hand shot forward, fingers locking around her wrist. A small tick pulsed at the corner of his left eye. Anticipation, arrogance. She struck instantly, her knee slammed into his solar plexus with surgical precision. His breath hitched, a sharp wheeze escaping before he staggered back. Sharon pivoted off the line, creating space, calculating trajectories. 8 bikers surged at once. She dropped low, sweeping a leg and collapsing to attackers. Pressure point strikes landed, brachial stun, mandibular angle, radial nerve, efficient, controlled, but the massive bodies kept coming. A fist clipped her ribs dull, deep impact, another blow grazed her jaw. Someone's boot hammered her shoulder, torque sending shock down her spine. Her back hit the pavement hard enough to knock air from her lungs. She rolled, trying to recover verticality, but a heavy boot planted near her head, stopping her momentum. Jerome leaned over her now, breathing uneven. Mask tilted just enough to show his smirk twisting. "Stupid move, sweetheart." Before she could shift, light split the darkness. A black Suburban tore around the corner, tires screaming against asphalt. It halted with a precision braking maneuver only military drivers mastered. Doors flew open. 7 men exited in disciplined sequence, no shouting, no wasted motion. Their presence hit the street like a change in atmospheric pressure. Sharon spat blood to the side, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, and allowed the smallest, razor-edged smile. "You wanted to know who I called." Her operators spread out, forming a textbook close CQB wedge. Shoulders aligned, footwork silent, eyes locked. The bikers shifted nervously, masks tilting as they realized these weren't friends, weren't bystanders. They were predators, and they were already inside striking distance. The violence was instantaneous, a blur of controlled aggression. 17 bikers dropped to the ground in under 90 seconds, disarmed, subdued, wrists zip-tied behind their backs with professional efficiency. Bones cracked, grunts cut the air, bodies hit pavement in rapid, rhythmic succession. 7 bikers fled on their motorcycles, engines roaring in panic rather than dominance. Jerome was among them, his bike fishtailed before stabilizing, engine screaming as he shot down the street. His taillight dwindled into a single red point, then vanished around the corner. Commander Hayes approached Sharon, scanning her injuries with a quick tactical assessment, eyes lingering on her shoulder, her split lip, the way she held her ribs slightly tighter than normal. His voice was low, steady. "You good, Santos?" Sharon didn't answer immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the street, where Jerome disappeared, her breathing controlled but sharpened at the edges. A faint tremor pulsed once through her hand before she curled it into a fist. "Now it's personal." The Naval Special Warfare Command briefing room felt colder than usual at 0600. Fluorescent lights cast a sterile glow over the tactical display, washing the colors into sharp contrasts. Sharon stood directly beneath it, posture rigid, weight balanced evenly despite the stiffness in her left shoulder. Her jaw bore a faint purple hue, her knuckles were wrapped in clean white tape, precise, tight, a medic's work done quickly at dawn. Behind her, Commander Hayes and the 6 operators formed a loose semicircle. They weren't at parade rest, but their stance carried the same discipline, feet planted, arms crossed or hands clasped behind backs, eyes locked forward. Mitchell's eyelid twitched in a rapid half-second rhythm. Kane's fingers drummed silently against his thigh, stopping only when he realized the others could hear it. Hayes broke the quiet. 17 arrests, all refused to talk. His voice carried the clipped cadence of an officer who'd already reviewed the situation twice before walking into the room. Jerome vanished. Sharon flicked her wrist, bringing up surveillance footage on the central display. The grainy image of Jerome's vest filled the screen. She zoomed in, isolating a blood-red patch near the shoulder blade. His vest had a patch, Crimson Skulls MC, FBI has a file. Mitchell leaned forward, elbows on knees, breath tight through his nose. Organized crime. Sharon didn't answer immediately. She opened a classified directory requiring dual authentication. The moment the file populated, the atmosphere shifted. No one breathed loudly. No one moved. "Worse," she said. Her voice had a low, controlled edge. "Sex trafficking ring. They prowl bars for victims, rely on intimidation and fast extraction. The FBI's been tracking them for 2 years. High level, mobile, compartmentalized, silence dense, unmoving." Walsh exhaled sharply and curled his hand into a fist, knuckles whitening. "We just handed them a SEAL operator to hunt." Sharon shook her head once. "They don't know what I am. I had no credentials on me." To Jerome, "I'm just another woman he tried to break." She paused, scanning their faces. "They think they botched a routine grab, that's all." Hayes stepped closer to the display, studying Jerome's escape route, brows knitting in minute increments. His voice carried authority sharpened by concern. "This goes beyond personal. We have probable cause for citizen's arrest and defensive intervention." Chen, who'd been silent, tilted her head with analytical precision. "We track them as civilians. No Title 10 authority. We observe, log, corroborate patterns. We turn everything over to the Bureau." Rodriguez's jaw tightened. "And if they move on another woman?" Sharon's eyes lifted, cold then steady. "We respond with appropriate force." Hayes nodded, accepting the unspoken boundary between legality and necessity. He tapped the industrial zone section of the map. "Their clubhouse is in Industrial District 9. We start surveillance tonight. No contact unless unavoidable." Sharon scrolled through the arrest records of the 17 detained bikers. Something caught her eye. Repeated ink patterns along the left shoulder blade, symbols, identical sequences. She zoomed in. "Commander," she said, pulse ticking slightly in her throat, "these aren't random street thugs. Look at their spacing during the assault. Their maneuver discipline, even their flanking behavior. None of that was improvised." Hayes narrowed his gaze. "You think they have training?" Sharon pulled up 3 files, placing them side by side. "I think Jerome recruited ex-military, dishonorable discharges. all from special operations pipelines washed out for misconduct or psych eval failures. A slow, heavy realization moved through the team like a pressure wave. Thompson shifted his stance, Kane's breath hitched. Rodriguez's shoulders squared. If Jerome was building an organized, tactical criminal cell composed of trained washouts, this wasn't just a biker gang. It was a paramilitary organization, and Sharon had just become their unfinished business. Night pressed down on the industrial district like a physical weight, thick and unmoving. The Crimson Skulls clubhouse, once a warehouse for heavy machinery, sat behind razor wire, its corrugated metal walls absorbing what little light leaked from the street lamps. No music, no drunken laughter. Just the low thrum of generators and the quiet shuffle of boots on concrete, the steady, disciplined rhythm of men who'd been trained to move with intent. Sharon and Chen occupying a derelict building across the street. Broken windows had been covered with blackout cloth. Dust coated the floor in a thin, silent layer. Their equipment, thermal imaging unit, parabolic mic, encrypted comms, rested on a folding table that wobbled with every subtle shift of weight. Chen adjusted the gain on the mic with meticulous precision, her fingers steady despite the cold. Sharon kept her eyes on the thermal feed, tracking silhouettes inside the warehouse. Her breaths were shallow, controlled, but a faint tremor ran through her right ring finger every time she exhaled. Hayes and the remaining team members dispersed around the perimeter. They blended into shadows, static, disciplined shapes positioned to intercept any movement. Their comms were quiet, save for the occasional check-in, a double click, a half-second burst of static, nothing more. Chen froze, movement at the south entrance, she whispered, voice pitched just above a breath. Sharon repositioned, and the thermal scope. A lone figure stepped through the warehouse's steel door, broad shoulders, familiar gait. Jerome, his skull mask hung around his neck, revealing a jawline with stubble and tension. He pressed a phone to his ear. Their directional microphone captured the low rasp of his voice. Yeah, she called reinforcements, he said. Some kind of tactical team, 7 operators, professional level. Sharon's pulse spiked once sharp, immediate, but her face remained still. Only her left eyelid flickered, an involuntary tick betraying the adrenaline spike. Jerome continued, no, I don't know who they are. That they took down 17 of our guys in 90 seconds. Chen shifted her weight, the faintest rustle of fabric. Sharon didn't move. Run facial recognition, Jerome said, after a pause. If they're cops or feds, we fold the operation. If they're private citizens, his voice dropped to something colder. We handle it our way. Chen turned slowly toward Sharon. They're hunting us back. Sharon returned her gaze to the thermal display. 32 heat signatures inside the structure. 2 more in the rear lot, another by the side door. Her breathing hitched for half a second, then steadied. They were outnumbered 4-1, outgunned, and none of them had federal authority here. This isn't a motorcycle club, she murmured. It's a paramilitary organization. The words hung in the air like static. Headlights approached. Sharon instinctively leaned forward, adjusting the zoom. A black SUV rolled to a stop before the gate. The vehicle was clean to clean for the district, with tinted windows and polished chrome. The driver stepped out, wearing a charcoal suit tailored to military posture. He walked with the straight-backed assurance of someone long accustomed to command. Jerome moved quickly, posture shifting from authority to deference. He opened the gate himself. Chen zoomed the scope until the driver's face sharpened, square jaw, scar near the temple, hair cut to regulation length despite no longer being military. Sharon felt something cold in her chest. That's Marcus Delgado. Former Marine Corps colonel. Chen raised a brow. He the one who dishonorably discharged, Sharon said. Black Ops smuggling ring. Afghanistan. Her voice tightened, just slightly. He vanished after the court-martial. No one knew who he aligned with. Chen let out a slow breath. Twist number 1. This goes way deeper than street crime. Sharon watched Delgado and Jerome speak beside the SUV. Their gestures were deliberate, concise operational planning, not small talk. Delgado handed Jerome a sealed envelope. Jerome didn't open it. Her phone buzzed. She didn't need to look to know it wasn't good. Still, she lifted the device with steady fingers. The screen glowed with an unknown number. A text message. We know where you live. Seal. Below it her full home address. For a moment, just when the muscles around her mouth tightened, forming a line that wasn't anger, wasn't fear, but a silent calculation of threat vectors and next steps. Her chest rose, but she held the breath halfway in, body going perfectly still. Then she turned the screen toward Chen. The hunt had officially become mutual. Sharon's apartment was eerily silent when the team arrived. The hallway light flickered against the cracked plaster, reflecting the chaotic scene that awaited them inside. Her door hung open, the lock drilled out with surgical precision. Sharon's eyes flicked to the threshold, noting the subtle gouges along the jam signs of professional entry. The air smelled of burned plastic and industrial spray paint. Furniture was overturned, drawers yanked open, and the walls bore fresh streaks of crimson and black skulls, dripping down in jagged, threatening lines. Personal photos were shredded, the remnants of faces glared up at her from the floor like accusing eyes. Every detail screamed a message: intrusion, intimidation, escalation. But it was her bedroom that told the real story. There, standing in the center of the room under a harsh, overhead light, was a mannequin. Navy blue draped its frame, a knife plunged through its chest. Dog tags hung from the neck, swinging slightly with the draft, exact replicas of Sharon's. Her pulse thudded in her ears, a visceral hammer of recognition. The team had learned long ago to read these cues. This was not a threat in jest. It was precise, personal, tactical. Walsh's jaw tightened. "They know," he said quietly, almost a whisper, eyes flicking over the mannequin. "They know everything." Hayes crouched, scanning for fingerprints, entry points, and any overlooked tactical clues. His gloved hands hovered over the surfaces, noting the burn marks along the baseboard and a pattern of impact on the dresser. "This is escalation," he said. "They're declaring war." Sharon's hands trembled, knuckles whitening against the BDU-clad mannequin. Not from fear, rage, cold and sharp, coursed through her veins. Every muscle in her back tightened, ready to coil like a spring. "How did they identify me?" she demanded, her voice low, measured, the kind that could freeze a room. Mitchell held up a small camera, the lens trained on the scene. "They've been watching, probably since the fight." His eyes met hers, steady, analytical, not a flicker of doubt, only calculated concern. Rodriguez pulled up security footage from the hallway outside. The playback revealed 3 men moving with military bearing, controlled, efficient, and out in 8 minutes. Their precision indicated training far beyond civilian experience. Each footstep was measured, each pause calculated. Sharon's jaw tightened. Her mind cataloged every movement, every micro-expression, every potential signature of specialized training. Chen's phone buzzed with a message. It displayed Sharon's number. But Sharon stood there, a living operator, unscathed and aware. The irony was not lost on them. "Answer it," Sharon commanded. Her voice was steel, calm but unwavering. To reply was a distorted voice, warped electronically. "SEAL team operator, impressive, but you stepped into something bigger than you understand. Walk away, and we forget this happened. Keep hunting us. .. The line went dead, leaving a pregnant silence in its wake. Sharon's eyes swept the room, sharp and piercing. "They hacked my phone, know my identity, my service record. They've analyzed everything." The room felt smaller, tighter, each operator feeling the weight of exposure. Hayes rubbed his temple, then let out a slow breath. "We report this to command. Let them." "No," Sharon cut him off, her words deliberate, each one a measured strike. "The moment this goes official, it becomes a jurisdictional mess. FBI, NCIS, local PD, these people disappear. All our leverage evaporates. So what do you propose?" Hayes asked, the tone even, but eyes reflecting the gravity. "We go dark, off the books, civilian operation. We find their network, document everything, and deliver a complete package to the FBI they can't ignore." Her words were tactical directives, stripped of drama, executed with the precision of a combat briefing. Thompson's brow furrowed. "That's vigilante territory." "No," Sharon corrected, eyes locked on him. "This is special operations. Gather intelligence, neutralize threats. Hand off to authorities with the evidence chain intact." Hayes scanned the team, 7 operators. Each one measured, prepared, aware of the invisible lines they were about to cross. "We're compromised," he finally said. "They know Sharon. Facial recognition likely caught the rest of us from surveillance. Operational security is now paramount." Walsh brought up thermal satellite imagery from the night before. 3 levels in the clubhouse, basement heat signatures indicating isolated chambers. "Holding cells," Sharon said, reading the data like a battlefield map. "They're keeping people there." A gravity settled over the room. This was no longer about revenge. The stakes had escalated into hostage recovery, tactical intelligence, and the dismantling of a paramilitary organization with deep operational experience. Rodriguez checked his watch. Jerome just posted on social media. Riverside Bar, crowded, public location. Sharon's hand instinctively, and to her jacket, the movement precise, practiced. She flexed her fingers around the zipper, aware of the small cuts along her knuckles, the bruises forming beneath her skin. Her voice was calm, deliberate. "Then let's have a conversation." Each operator absorbed the weight of the words, the undercurrent of imminent action. The night was far from over. The hunt had shifted from reactive to offensive. The city streets outside had just become a battlefield. Riverside Bar was a riot of sound and heat, bass-heavy music vibrating through the floor. Bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, the air thick with sweat, beer, and cigarette residue. Yet beneath the nose, Sharon moved like a specter, focused, breath steady, every step measured. Jerome lounged in a corner booth with 2 lieutenants, laughing too loudly, the kind of performative amusement that telegraphed confidence bordering on arrogance. His posture was loose, but his eyes darting. Predatory, missed nothing. A man who felt untouchable, Sharon approached alone, concealed war taped beneath her clothes. Outside, her team was positioned in a loose tactical formation, earpieces open, calm, silent except for controlled breathing and the occasional micro-click of someone adjusting Overwatch. She slid into the booth without invitation. The move was surgical, precise, not dramatic. Jerome's smile froze mid-laugh, a microspasm around his jaw before he forced it into a wider grin. "The SEAL girl," he said. Bold. Sharon's gaze didn't waver. "We need to talk." His lieutenants shifted instantly. One's nostrils flared. The other's hand drifted to his waistband, telegraphing intent. Sharon raised both hands, palms open, empty. "I'm not here for a fight," she said. "I'm here with an offer." Jerome leaned back. His fingers drummed once on the table, an involuntary tell before he masked it with a lazy exhale. "I'm listening." "You know what I am now," Sharon said. "You saw what my team can do. And you know that if this continues to escalate, you lose." Her voice stayed cool, level, stripped of ego. "So here's the deal. You walk away from trafficking. Shut down your operation. Disappear. And we don't hand everything we have to the FBI. Jerome laughed sharply, a forced, hollow sound. "You think you're in a position to negotiate? I think you're smart enough to see you're outmatched." One lieutenant shifted again, revealing the grip of a concealed pistol beneath his jacket. Hayes's voice slid into her ear, low and controlled. 3 armed suspects at 9 o'clock. 2 more covering the exits. Eyes up, Santos. Jerome's smile never faltered. "You're not outmatched, sweetheart. You're outnumbered. You walked into my territory, alone, and you think you can threaten me. I'm offering you a way out." Jerome leaned in, breath smelling of whiskey and arrogance. "Here's my counteroffer. You and your 7 Boy Scouts leave town tonight. Because if I see you again..." His eyes hardened, pupils constricting. "I won't be gentle." Sharon rose smoothly. Wrong answer. She barely turned before Jerome's hand seized her arm. His grip was too tight, fingertips digging into muscle. Sharon's pulse didn't spike, but a small muscle beneath her left eye twitched, a tiny, controlled signal of restrained violence. "One more thing," Jerome said. "That colonel you saw, Marcus Delgado, he's not my boss. He's my partner, ex-Black Ops. He knows every trick in your playbook, and he's already 3 steps ahead." Sharon jerked her arm free. "Then he'll see us coming." Outside, Hayes intercepted her the moment she cleared the doorway. His jaw was clenched, breath visible in the cold air, rifle slung low but ready. "We got everything. Wire picked it all up: trafficking admissions, threats, conspiracy." "It's solid." Sharon shook her head. "Not enough. We need the holding cells, victims, physical evidence." Chen brought up satellite imagery. glow reflecting off her focused eyes. They're moving something tonight. Large truck, guarded. Leaving the clubhouse, 0300, Rodriguez was already prepping his kit. We intercept, Sharon exhaled slowly. No. We follow. See where it leads. Walsh tightened his vest straps. What if they're moving victims? Then we document, call the FBI with an active situation, and provide tactical support, if authorized. Hayes nodded once. We shadow the convoy, stay invisible. Let them expose themselves. At 0245, the team was in position along the convoy route. Black SUVs formed a protective wedge around a semi-truck, the formation too disciplined for street-level crime. Engine nose low, controlled, spotters scanning rooftops. This is industrial, Mitchell murmured. Military-adjacent structure, somebody trained them. The convoy veered toward the port. Shipping containers towered like steel tombstones under harsh floodlights. Sharon's throat tightened. They're exporting victims. But then the convoy didn't stop. It turned hard toward the private airfield. They've got a plane, Chen said, almost whispering. They're flying them out. Hayes contacted FBI Special Agent Victoria March. Active trafficking operation. Private airfield, need immediate intervention. Marsh's voice came back cold. Stand down. We've been tracking them for 18 months. You interfere, you kill the investigation. Sharon's breath caught. There are victims in that truck. And if you rescue them tonight, Marsh countered, the entire network disappears. We are 3 days from a full takedown. Stand down. The plane's engines roared to life, cargo doors opened. Sharon's finger hovered against her rifle's trigger well. One shot could disable the plane. One. She could save them. Hayes's hand landed gently on her shoulder. Not forceful. Just enough pressure to ground her. Santos. Don't. The plane taxied. Lifted. Vanished into the night sky. Sharon lowered her rifle, breath shuddering once. We just let them go, to catch the bigger fish, Hayes said. But through her scope, she caught movement. Jerome and Delgado slipping into an SUV, headed down a side road, away from their base. Somewhere secret, somewhere critical. I'm following them, Sharon said. Negative, Hayes snapped. We hold position. But Sharon was already moving, shoulders tense, jaw set, strides long and deliberate. This is personal now. Sharon kept her headlights off as she tailed Jerome's SUV through the industrial grid, rows of abandoned warehouses, rusted freight yards, and loading docks still slick with coastal humidity. The road was empty enough that every turn felt like a risk. Solo surveillance was a breach of protocol, and she knew Hayes was counting every second she defied him. Santos, return to position, that's an order. Hayes's voice carried a clipped edge, the kind he only used when he felt the situation slipping. She didn't answer, her jaw tightened until a tendon in her neck twitched. She couldn't pull back not after watching that plane vanish. The SUV made an unexpected turn toward downtown. The shift in geography was jarring, industrial decay giving way to gleaming glass towers, manicured sidewalks, valet stands. A place that smelled of money, privacy, curated silence. Not a criminal stronghold, not a biker den. Jerome pulled into the underground garage of a luxury high-rise. Delgado sat in the passenger seat, posture straight even at rest, a soldier's discipline etched into every movement. Sharon parked 2 blocks away, exited on foot. Her steps were silent, controlled. She moved like a shadow, breath steady despite the cold tightening in her chest. The high-rise loomed above her, polished steel catching the streetlights with surgical precision. Jerome and Delgado entered through a private access point. Key card entry, resident-level clearance. Sharon scanned the facade quickly, analyzing angles, camera arcs, blind spots. She located the fire escape ladder, secured but not alarmed. She scaled it with practiced efficiency, fingertips gripping cold metal, boots making no sound. At the 6th-floor landing, she found a narrow maintenance ledge and eased herself along it until she reached a window overlooking the condo. She wiped a thin layer of condensation with her sleeve and froze. The condo interior was nothing like she expected. A full operational command center filled the space, racks of servers humming, monitors lining the walls, encrypted comm stations glowing with shifting data feeds. Maps marked with colored indicators showed shipping routes across the Pacific, coordinates for ports in Mexico, Vietnam, and Eastern Europe. This wasn't a biker gang hideout, it was a military-grade intel hub. But the detail that made her pulse spike wasn't the equipment. It was a monitor on the far wall displaying something impossible. FBI case files, internal reports, agent personnel logs, active investigations. Sharon leaned closer, breath-catching. Marcus Delgado sat at a workstation, tapping commands with the confidence of someone who had done this 1,000 times. He wasn't hacking, he was logged in, authorized access. "They have a mole," she whispered into her mic. Her throat felt tight. Inside the FBI, a long silence. Then Hayes's was sharper than before. "Repeat that." "Delgado has real-time access to Bureau systems. Marcia's investigation, movement schedules, field intel. He knows everything. He knows about us." Inside, Jerome opened a black folder and flipped it toward Delgado. Sharon zoomed in with her phone camera, her breath stilled. Her file. Not the redacted public version, her classified service record. Deployment history, psychological levels, family addresses. Her mother's house in Portland, her sister's work schedule. A slow burn of anger tightened her chest, but she didn't let it affect her breathing. Quiet professionalism. Move. Don't react. Delgado pointed to another screen, saying something Sharon couldn't hear. Jerome leaned in, eyes narrowing. He nodded once, a decision made. Sharon's phone camera kept recording as she shifted focus to the next monitor. The image sharpened. Live surveillance feeds. Her team, 7 operators. Each one displayed with infrared signatures, their exact grid positions. Their approach vectors. They weren't hunting the enemy. The enemy had been tracking them. Abort. Sharon snapped into comms, voice raw, breaking the silence she'd held for hours. "Abort. Abort. It's a trap. They have our positions." She was already moving as she said it, climbing down the fire escape, boots hitting metal with hard, deliberate precision. The first explosion hit 2 miles east Rodriguez's Overwatch sector. The concussion traveled through the air, a low-frequency boom that rattled the metal under her hands. "Rodriguez is down." Walsh's voice cracked through the comms, breath frantic. IEDG's coordinated strike. They're everywhere. 2 more detonations erupted along the perimeter. Perfect timing, perfect spacing. Killbox engineering. Delgado's expertise. Sharon's stomach hollowed. They hadn't been pursuing the Crimson Skulls. The Skulls had spent the last 48 hours funneling them into a slaughter. She reached the ground just as the SUV's headlights flashed on inside the garage. Jerome walked past a window, turned his head, not a full turn, just a subtle angle, and looked directly at her position. A smile spread across his face, slow, deliberate, like a wolf recognizing its prey. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Checkmate. Sharon's grip tightened around the phone until her knuckles blanched. Sharon ran low, cutting through the smoke drifting across the intersection, her boots pounding against fractured asphalt still vibrating from the last detonation. The air tasted of burning fuel and pulverized concrete. Each breath scraped her throat like sand. Ahead, muzzle flashes cracked from elevated angles. Precision fire. Staggered, controlled, not panic shots, not amateurs. Her team was scattered across a half-collapsed loading yard, using concrete pylons and shipping containers as improvised cover. Mitchell hauled Rodriguez by the collar of his plate carrier, dragging him behind a forklift while Chen braced herself on one knee and laid down suppressive bursts with crisp trigger discipline. Rodriguez's face was a sheet of sweat and dust, jaw clenched so hard a muscle twitched near his cheekbone. Bright arterial rays spread across his ribcage. Sharon slid into position beside them, gravel biting into her palms. Rodriguez's status. He gave a strained grunt, not words. His hand trembled as he pressed down on the shrapnel wound, breaths uneven, teeth set against the pain. "How many shooters?" Sharon asked, swapping magazines with a motion so clean it was muscle memory. Hayes crouched behind a concrete barrier, scanning the rooftops through thermal optics. 12 minimum, possibly more. Their spacing is deliberate interlocking arcs. They've been planning this. Walsh ducked behind a crate, his tablet glowing dim blue against his vest. He tapped rapidly, then cursed under his breath. "All comms are compromised. They're inside, our channels monitoring everything." Sharon felt her jaw lock. She flipped her mic to mute, lifted her hand, and signaled, "Immediate transition to silent protocols." The team responded without hesitation, hands moving in tight, rehearsed patterns. Formation shift, flanking sweep, rotational cover. But every maneuver they executed was countered instantly. Every position shift was anticipated, cut off by precise bursts. Kane darted left, only to be pinned down by gunfire that arrived seconds before he reached his spot. He looked at Sharon, chest rising fast, a vein pulsing at his temple. "They know our training," he mouthed. "They know exactly what we're doing." Because Delgado had trained them, had taught these tactics, had commanded special operations units to now apparently work for him in the shadows. Sharon's pulse snapped into controlled focus. She raised her arm, rally point Zulu, emergency withdrawal. The team's eyes hardened, no arguments, no hesitation. They began peeling back in disciplined sequence to moving while to covered, then rotating. Even wounded, Rodriguez lifted his weapon long enough to give Mitchell cover to move him. The enemy didn't press, didn't advance. Their silhouettes remained on rooftops like silent sentinels, rifles pointed downward but unmoving. "They're letting us go," Thompson muttered as they reached the vehicle's staging area, voices still on mute but their eyes carrying the same question. "Why the hell would they do that?" Sharon's phone vibrated. A news alert lit the screen bright, sharp, unforgiving. "FBI agent arrested for corruption." Agent Victoria Marsh's photo stared back at her. Hayes read the article aloud, voice cold tight. "Leaking classified information, obstructing federal investigations, accepting bribes from organized crime." His brow furrowed. "This paints her as the mole." "No," Sharon said, eyes narrowing. "Delgado burned her. He fed just enough evidence to frame her and scrub himself clean." Rodriguez gave a pained groan, his fingers slippery with blood. Chen moved fast, ripping gauze from her kit. "We need a hospital." "Negative," she said sharply. "Hospitals will be monitored. They'll expect us there." Sharon didn't hesitate. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in 2 years. "Chief, it's Santos. I need a favor, off the books." 20 minutes later, they pulled into a dim alley behind a private clinic that looked abandoned from the outside. The back door cracked open, revealing Chief Petty Officer Davis Gray at the temples, still built like a brick wall. "Santos," he said, eyeing the group with controlled concern. "Hell of a night?" He ushered them inside. Harsh white lights flickered overhead. The air smelled of antiseptic and old medical tape. Davis knelt beside Rodriguez, cutting away the vest with practice speed. "Shrapnel, midline entry. Bleeding's heavy but manageable, he's lucky." He glanced at the others, expression tightening. "You're all exposed. Marsh's arrest means the Bureau knows they have a leak. They'll start pulling logs. Call records, contacts, including us," Hayes said. "Especially you," Davis corrected. 7 SEAL operators running an unsanctioned op. "To the Bureau, this looks like vigilantism." Sharon paced, hands clasped behind her back, movements sharp. "Jerome and Delgado set the battlefield. We look like aggressors, they look like victims under attack." Mitchell pulled up the blast footage on his tablet. The clarity of the explosion illuminated his grim expression. These weren't improvised devices from a biker gang. These were precision-placed military-grade charges. Whoever set them had EOD-level training. "Delgado's network runs deep," Sharon said. Her voice was low, controlled, special operations. "Disgraced intelligence officers, the FBI mole. They have resources none of us accounted for." Kane leaned forward. "Then what's our next move?" Sharon stopped pacing, her eyes hardened, the kind of resolve that carried no emotion, only decision. "We go dark, off-grid, total blackout, we disappear." "And then what?" Mitchell asked. "Then we hit them where they don't expect." Davis finished the bandaging and stood. "You need to understand. Delgado didn't just run covert ops, he ran ghost missions. Off-book assignments even the Pentagon pretends don't exist. He has contacts in every agency. And every dirty cop in 3 states, a voice said behind them. 6 weapons lifted instantly. Sharon didn't blink. A woman stepped into the room, hands raised, wearing a tailored suit and carrying FBI credentials, mid-30s, calm posture. No panic despite 7 rifles trained on her. Special Agent Lauren Chen, No relation, she added. Glancing at Lieutenant Chen, Hayes didn't lower his weapon. How do you find us? The same way Delgado tracked you, she said. You're sloppy tonight, and have been following Santos since the first attack. She lowered her hand slowly. I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here because you're the first people who've gotten close to Delgado's real operation. Sharon studied her steady breathing, no tremor in her voice, shoulders relaxed but alert, not a liar, not nervous. Why should we trust you? Sharon asked. Because Marsh was arrested on evidence I provided, Agent Chen said. I've been building a parallel case against her for 6 months. But Marsh wasn't Delgado's main operation, she was a small piece. Then what's the real operation? Walsh asked. Chen pulled out a tablet and tapped an encrypted folder. Arms trafficking, high level. Delgado has been stealing military hardware, javelins, stingers, encrypted comm systems and selling them to foreign terror cells, the trafficking ring, a decoy. It draws heat away from the weapons pipeline. No one spoke. The plane you saw tonight, she continued, wasn't transporting victims. It was carrying Javelin anti-tank systems. The crates packed onto it were stolen munitions. Sharon felt her stomach twist. We treated it like a trafficking op. That's exactly what he wanted, Chen said. But your photos from the condo. She turned the tablet so they could see Sharon's surveillance shots. This proves Delgado is the leak. This gives me probable cause. It's not enough, Hayes said. He'll cover it, Chen nodded. Exactly. I need more. I need him recorded. On the record, admitting to the operation. Sharon exhaled slowly. He won't talk, Hayes said. He's too disciplined, too smart. Sharon's gaze sharpened. Unless, she said softly, he thinks he's already won. Sharon stood in the center of the abandoned warehouse, knees slightly bent, spine straight despite the zip ties biting into her wrists. A thin ribbon of blood, perfectly placed makeup, but smeared with convincing fragility, trailed from her split lip. She let a slow breath escape through her nose, letting her chest rise only half an inch, controlled, deliberate. Selling the illusion of defeat, Jerome paced around her in a lazy orbit, combat boots scraping the concrete. His phone camera stayed trained on her face. His nostrils flared in small pulses, the micro tells of a man savoring control. Navy SEAL Sharon Santos, he said, voice dripping triumph. Age 20, parents in Colorado, younger brother in college. His smile tightened. Too sharp, too practiced. Should I keep going? Sharon didn't lift her head. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor, lashes trembling just enough to register fear. Do what you want with me, she said, her voice rough, frayed at the edges. My team is gone. You won. Jerome stopped mid-stride. A barely noticeable twitch flickered at the corner of his mouth. Gone. Disbanded, Sharon whispered. The FBI investigation. They ran, saved themselves. She let her voice wobble, a perfectly timed fracture. I'm the only one who stayed. Every word was theater, calibrated, rehearsed. 20 feet below, Agent Chen's tech team sat in a basement bunker formed from old loading rooms, directional microphones pointed upward through drilled holes in the concrete. Her blood was a mixture of stage resin and powdered pigment. Rodriguez, still recovering, had applied it with the precision of someone who once memorized lighting cues and stage notes between weapons qualifications. Sharon had walked into this capture willingly. Her message to Jerome, you win, let's negotiate, had hit the exact frequency his ego couldn't resist. The warehouse door groaned. Marcus Delgado stepped inside, boots silent despite his size. Tactical gear hugged his frame with the casual authority of a man who had once lived in it for decades. He carried no weapon, a statement in itself. To SEAL operative, Delgado said, I'm almost impressed. The corner of Sharon's mouth twitched, one fraction shy of defiance, almost. You were good, Delgado said, circling her like an instructor assessing a trainee. But predictable, your team thought they were hunters. He leaned close, his breath striking her cheek. They were always prey. Sharon's chest tightened, not from fear, but from the pressure of needing the perfect question. How long have you been planning this? 3 years, he said. No hesitation, no caution, since my discharge. His jaw flexed, a tick she caught immediately. a wound there. A resentment that made him careless. 25 years serving this country, he went on. Then they court-martial me for appropriating equipment. Equipment I was using for sanctioned operations. Sanctioned by who? She asked softly. That doesn't matter. His nostrils flared. Point is, they threw me away. So I built something better, something profitable. Jerome handed him a tablet with reverence. The FBI's still chasing the trafficking angle. They have no idea about the weapons. Delgado smirked, because trafficking is loud. It generates heat, investigations, moral outrage. Perfect knows while we move real cargo. What cargo? Sharon asked, letting her brows knit in just enough doubt. Military hardware, he said. Stolen from bases across the country, sold to the highest bidder. Sharon's pulse studded once, heart against her throat. He was confessing everything. You're wondering how we do it, Delgado continued. Simple. I still have contacts, operators screwed by the system. We take what's owed to us, Jerome's bikers. Perfect distribution network. Nobody suspects patched riders of moving Stinger missiles. How many weapons? She pushed. $70 million worth in 2 years. He said it like reading a grocery list. Javelins, C4, encrypted comms. Prototype systems, Jerome chuckled. And every time the FBI got close, Agent Marsh redirected them. Delgado checked his watch. Speaking of which, shipment leaves in an hour. 200 M4S, grenade crates, beers paying $3 million. Sharon lifted her chin, letting something shift in her eyes, resignation mixed with calculation. Let me work for you. Both men froze. Jerome's brow twitched. Delgado's fingers hovered over the tablet screen. You said it yourself, Sharon murmured. My career's over. I need a way forward. Delgado studied her like a puzzle. Interesting. Jerome snarled. She's lying. Search her. Delgado said. They did, efficiently, intrusively, found nothing. Because Sharon wasn't wired, the basement microphones caught every whisper. Prove loyalty, Delgado said. Federal witness, protective custody, former soldier, kill him. Done, Sharon answered. Jerome wasn't satisfied. She took down 17 of my men, then show her the insurance policy, Delgado said. Jerome pulled up a video feed, Sharon's parents' house, live feed. Crosshair drifting lazily over the second-floor window. Her pulse stilled, completely. Not fear, hyperfocus, her brother's campus. Another rifleman, another feed, her old roommate. The corpsman who'd patched Rodriguez. Every loved one, marked. Delgado smiled like a man discussing weather. Welcome to the team. They cut her ties, handed her a pistol, motioned toward the van. And Sharon realized, with a coldness she felt deep in her bones, that she hadn't just walked into a trap. She had walked into their trap, and now everyone she cared about was on the line. The van rolled to a silent stop beside the safe house, its engine cutting out with a low mechanical sigh. The neighborhood was still, almost sterile rows of government-purchased homes meant to blend into suburbia. Two U.S. Marshals stood outside, weapons holstered but hands hovering close, their posture too rigid to be casual. Delgado watched Sharon with that unreadable stillness he used whenever he issued orders that could end lives. He handed her a suppressed pistol, steel cold, factory-oiled, magazine seated tight. The witness is inside. Bedroom, second floor. Make it clean. His voice carried a clinical detachment, the tone of a man accustomed to blood work. Jerome leaned forward from the shadows of the van's rear row, his breath fogging the glass. His eyes locked onto her with predatory calculation. Any hesitation, and your family dies, understand? His jaw ticked once, a microspasm of threat. Sharon inspected the weapon, fingers steady but pulse sharpening beneath her skin. 15 rounds, subsonic, tactical load. She could turn the muzzle on Jerome, double tap center mass, pivot to Delgado, but the moment she did, the real threat would activate. Snipers positioned on her family's perimeter. She'd seen the surveillance streams. She didn't doubt they were prepared to execute. She closed the slide with a quiet, decisive click. She needed to play this through. Exiting the van, she circled to the rear of the property. Her steps were controlled, weight distributed perfectly, each movement textbook SEAL infiltration. The shadows welcomed her, She picked the back lock in under 6 seconds, slipping inside without a sound. The marshals never looked behind them. Her ascent up the staircase was slow, controlled breathing, weapon at high ready. Every muscle cold, every nerve registering the creak of old floorboards and distant hum of hook vents. The bedroom door stood slightly ajar. A thin band of light stretched across the hallway. Inside, a man sat at a desk, flipping through documents with trembling fingers. Former Army Ranger, she saw it instantly in his posture, the squared shoulders fighting collapse, the 1,000-yard stare trying and failing to relax. He sensed her before he saw her. When he turned, his eyes widened just for a heartbeat before resignation settled over him like a shroud. He exhaled shakily and shut his eyes. "To it," he whispered. "They've got my daughter. If I testify, she dies. If I don't, I die. She ends up alone either way." Sharon's finger found the trigger, resting lightly, to metal warm beneath her touch. Her heartbeat thudded once in her ears. Agent Chen's voice crackled faintly in the micro-earpiece slipped to her during the staged briefing, a notice by Delgado's men. "Santos, we have teams moving on the snipers. But we need time, 60 seconds, 60 seconds, a lifetime." Sharon's voice dropped to a murmur. "What's your daughter's name?" The man's throat bobbed. "Emma, she's 8. Sharon lowered the muzzle a fraction. "She's going to grow up with her father." His eyes shot open. "What?" Without hesitation, she fired 3 rounds into the far wall, angled for maximum acoustic authenticity. She grabbed the blood packets Rodriguez had shoved into her hand days earlier. "In case things go sideways," he'd said with a crooked grin. She tore them open, splattering his shirt, his face, the desk. "Fall down," she ordered. "Play dead. FBI's already in the building." He stumbled backward, collapsing convincingly as heavy footsteps sounded below. The marshals downstairs weren't marshals at all. They were undercover FBI, placed by Agent Chen an hour earlier. "What about my daughter?" he whispered, voice breaking. 60 federal agents just hit every location Delgado's watching, Sharon said. "Your daughter's safe." She fired 2 more rounds through the window, clean through exit patterns, unmistakable signals. Then she ran, out the back, across the yard, into the van. "It's done," she said, tone cold, clinical, perfect mimicry of an assassin suppressing adrenaline. Delgado's eyes flicked to his phone. Surveillance showed the dead witness sprawled on the floor. He exhaled through his nose, satisfied. "Good. You follow orders." Jerome didn't buy it. Suspicion tightened his features, nostrils flared, fingers tapping the window frame. "I want confirmation," he snapped. "Body photos, you'll get them." Delgado cut in. "Right now, we have a shipment to move." "Santos, you're driving the truck. 200 rifles, prove you can handle logistics." The convo moved toward the warehouse. As Sharon climbed into the semi-truck's cab, she spotted FBI silhouettes in the darkness, coordinated, posed, ready to strike. Agent Chen had 50 operators tightening a perimeter. But Delgado saw movement too. "It's a raid," Jerome hissed, scanning rooftops. His hand drifted toward his weapon. Delgado turned, eyes narrowing, barrel raising toward Sharon. "You set us up." Sharon met his stare, voice steady. "No, you did, because Hayes and her SEAL team had been infiltrating Delgado's network for days, planting trackers, copying files, documenting every illicit shipment. Every weapon you've sold," Sharon said. "Every operation, every bribed official, every stolen missile, we have it all, and it's already uploaded to 3 federal agencies." Delgado's face drained of color. "You're bluffing." Hayes emerged from the shadows, his operators at his back. "She's not." Jerome grabbed for his gun. Rodriguez fired a precision shot, shattering it from his grip. Agent Chen stepped forward with 20 FBI agents. "Marcus Delgado, Jerome Watt's federal warrant for arms trafficking, conspiracy, murder, bribery, and multiple counts of terrorism." Jerome lunged at Sharon, teeth bared. She caught his momentum, locked his arm, and dropped him with a perfect arm bar. His breath left him in a gasp. "That's for the ambush," she said quietly. Delgado stared at her. "You risked your family." "No," Sharon replied. "You did. The snipers you hire, undercover FBI since yesterday. We replaced them after your surveillance sweep. Your insurance policy was worthless." Federal agents swarmed the warehouse, collecting weapons, cuffing Delgado's men. Rodriguez limped up, arm in a sling, grinning. "That was insane. That was Tuesday," Hayes said. But Sharon's eyes were fixed on Jerome as he was shoved into a federal vehicle. His smile was blooded but defiant. "This isn't over," he growled. "There are 10 more like Delgado, 100 more like me." Sharon stepped closer, meeting his fury with calm steel. "Then we'll stop them too." 3 months later, the Naval Special Warfare Command auditorium hummed with muted anticipation. The air smelled of polished wood, brass insignia, and the faint tang of formal uniforms. Sharon Santos stood rigid in dress whites, posture perfect, but her palms betrayed her slick with sweat despite the cool AC. Her jaw was tight. The subtle flare of nostrils betrayed restrained breath, each inhale measured, controlled. Every eye in the room seemed to weigh her presence, but her attention drifted to the victims she could never forget, the 14 women recovered from Delgado's network, the lives she and her team had saved. The young girl named Emma, asleep safely far from danger. Commander Hayes's voice cut through the room, crisp and resonant, carrying authority honed over decades. For extraordinary heroism and exceptional bravery in dismantling a major arms trafficking operation, rescuing 14 trafficking victims, and exposing corruption within federal law enforcement. Sharon's mind ran through the tactical sequences, the ambush, the tracking, the stage capture, every calculated risk she'd taken with precision under fire. Her pulse thudded in her temples, a quiet, relentless reminder of what had almost gone wrong. The Navy Cross is hereby awarded to Petty Officer First Class Sharon Santos. Applause erupted, rolling like distant thunder through the auditorium. Sharon barely registered it at first. Her mother's hands trembled, clenching tissue as tears streamed down her cheeks. Her father's lips pressed tight, a rare stoic display of pride. Her younger brother, who had once argued about the danger she courted, now stood, clapping so hard his knuckles whitened, eyes shining with admiration. Sharon's gaze shifted briefly to the back of the room. Agent Lauren Chen, blending into the crowd but unmistakable, gave a subtle nod. Respect, acknowledgement, partnership forged in chaos. After the ceremony, Sharon stepped outside into the bright afternoon, the sun sharp against her eyes. Her team was waiting: Walsh, Kane, Thompson, Rodriguez, Mitchell, Chen, and Hayes. The weight of past missions and losses hung in the air, palpable yet sheer, like a silent acknowledgement of blood, fire, and sweat that bound them tighter than any uniform. "So," Walsh said, voice dry, teasing the edges of tension, "what now?" Sharon scanned their faces, reading micro-expressions, tight jawlines, the flicker of a lip, a subtle shoulder twitch, the tension of fingers brushing gear. These were no longer teammates. These were brothers, sisters in arms, a unit tempered by shared danger. "Now we get back to work," she said, low, deliberate. "There are more Delgados out there." "And more Jeromes," Kane added, a shadow of a smirk crossing his face, acknowledging the relentless adversaries who would rise to challenge them. Hayes gave a measured nod. "Then it's a good thing we're very good at our jobs." Rodriguez's phone vibrated sharply. His face, usually a mask of humor even in chaos, tightened as he read. "Guys, Delgado escaped federal custody during transport. Marshals found dead. He's in the wind." Eyes flicked between one another. Sharon's pulse jumped, a reminder that the fight never truly ends. She instinctively flexed her hand near her sidearm, testing the familiar weight, the grit comforting, a tactile anchor in the storm of possibility. Muscle memory, tactical readiness, mental clarity all honed to a razor's edge. "Then we hunt," she said simply. No hesitation, no theatricality. Just cold, professional certainty. Hayes placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Not alone, never alone." "Never alone," the team echoed, voices low but ironclad. They moved toward the vehicles, a coordinated rhythm of motion, each operator stepping with quiet authority, awareness spanning 300 degrees. Sharon allowed herself a glance at the skyline. The sun dipped low, gold spilling over concrete and asphalt, casting long, angular shadows. Somewhere out there, Delgado ran, slipping through chaos, but she knew the immutable truth: Navy SEALs finished the mission. No timeline, no excuses. In the Suburban, Sharon slid into the driver's seat, hand steady now on the wheel, a subtle exhale escaping her. The 7 operators filed in around her, silent, lethal, focused. No masks, no hidden identities, no performative gestures, just warriors who had chosen the right side, committed to justice over comfort, honor over fear. The engine rumbled to life, an understated but powerful pulse under their feet. As the Suburban rolled into the fading light, Sharon's eyes lingered on the horizon. Teased not the absence of conflict, but the knowledge that they had chosen action over passivity, courage over paralysis. Every life saved, every weapon confiscated, every corrupt officer exposed, it was vindication, measured in quiet professionalism, calculated risk, and relentless determination. Some battles never truly end. Some wars don't finish with medals, ceremonies, or applause. But in that vehicle, with her team around her, Sharon felt the weight of the lesson they had all earned together. Justice is a fight without finality, and she would face it, every round, every day, as long as it took. And for anyone watching their story unfold, understanding the stakes, and craving the truth of professional courage under fire, this is only the beginning. Subscribe to the channel to witness more real tactical operations, elite strategy breakdowns, and the untold stories of those who fight beyond the headlines.